Councilmember Patterson.
Here.
Vice President Harris.
Here.
President Melendez.
Here.
Thank you.
Our first item is authorizing an amendatory agreement related to the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial Park playground renovation. Any questions or concerns?
Comment?
Yes.
Just want to note that this is a green space that is not far from 125 Charlotte Street.
So noted. Yes.
I've seen there's a lot of it looks like the playground is mostly done, but I'm not sure if it's totally done. So just an update on timeline.
I can answer that question.
Sorry, your mic's not on. No. Maybe.
Is it on now? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think so.
Thank you. That's correct. It's not fully done. There's some final touches that we are doing that should be completed, that will be completed this spring.
Okay, so by the time the peak of the summer playground season is here, the playground will be totally done.
For sure. We had a soft opening last fall, so it is open for people to be on right now, but there's some final touches that we're going to be doing. But yes, it definitely will be open.
And part of my ignorance on this, is there a spray park as part of the playground?
Yes, there is.
So that will be fully operational this summer as well?
Yes.
Great. Thank you.
Councilmember Martin.
In writing, can you provide more details about the unforeseen issues and a breakdown of how the funds will be used to address the issue identified?
Yes, that's a good question. There was some unmapped utilities, and we were thinking that we'd be able to connect the water on site, but we were not able to do that. So
excuse me, can you pull your mic closer?
Sorry. The unforeseen utilities, we were supposed to be connecting the water on site for the water park and a water bottle filling station, and it was undersized, so we ended up having to make a different connection and avoid some other utilities in that redesign.
Thank you.
Anyone? Yes, Vice President.
Thank you, Chair Monroe. I have a question, and it's related to this somewhat. I realize that you guys have a spray park that's a part of this project, which is very good. But there's something I've noticed when I drive by during the summer where the ice rink is, where they have the fountain of water. I noticed that kids play in that, and even adults play in that during the summer months when it's really hot. And I get that. Is it possible if you guys can chlorinate that area during that time so that if they do that, it's safe? Is that something possible or no? I see that Commissioner Green shaking her head.
So as you know, it is a public area that we could not corner off. And it's to beautify the area. That's why the waterfalls are going. And I don't know if there's any possibility of doing anything different, but certainly between DRIS and DES, we will look at that.
I know that it's not supposed to be something but people do it anyway, and I don't know how you change culture. So I thought maybe it would be a ask to see if it could be chlorinated. So if it is, it's safe, That's all, something to think about.
Okay.
Thank you.
As a follow-up to that, so I am not native to Rochester, and I didn't know that the aperture armorage that's there is actually a piece of art in the brutalist style.
The berms?
Oh, that's what it's called? Okay. Is there a plaque there saying what it is?
No, I don't believe there is.
Okay, just because I honestly never thought that it was art. I thought it was there possibly for technical functions if there had been plays done there or some sort of a thing. So I wasn't here to be able to go up on it as I understand people did in the past. Councilmember Patterson.
Just two quick comments. One, brutalist style sums it up perfectly. Two, the water feature is much better than the dry hockey rink that I experienced for all the time that I lived at 10 Manhattan Square. So if we can find a way to, I'm sure everybody and their cousin is playing in that water on a hot day, and I don't blame them. But whatever we can do, be great.
Any other questions?
I'll move it.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Introductory 113. Bond ordinance of the City of Rochester, New York, authorizing the issuance of $1,605,000 bonds of said city to finance the Honorable Willie Walker Lightfoot R Center for Equity and Justice Site Improvements Project. Questions?
Move it.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Introductory number 114. Authorizing an agreement for the Honorable Willie Walker Lightfoot R Center for Equity and Justice Site Improvement Project. All the questions?
Move it.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Sorry, item passes. Introductory number 115, authorizing agreements and appropriating funds related to the renovation of storefront space in the South Avenue garage. Questions? Councilmember Gruber?
Thanks. This is a great use of the space. Looking forward to seeing it come to fruition. Just want to verify, maybe this is for you, Deputy Mayor, are we specifically going to host city-managed workforce development projects there, or will it be open to some community groups who do work like that as well?
I think that's yet to be determined, but certainly a good idea and something we ought to consider.
So the project as proposed here is to essentially outfit office and workspace that we know will be used, but there's not a specific tenant yet.
Certainly to be used by the city, but given your comment, certainly something we'll consider.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks.
Vice President Harris? Oh, okay. I had a question. During committee review, I had asked a question about the MWBE goals. And what I realized I was getting at is I know with at least one project in the past, it was actual heads, how many minorities and how many women worked on particular parts of projects in the trades in order to, and then I think we did aggregate that within the entire project. But do we do that now?
Yeah, excuse me. That'll be a question we'll ask our purchasing department. I can get you that in writing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I can't remember if that was the old Midtown project or.
Could have been.
Okay. Thank you. Do I have a motion?
Move it.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Item passes. Introductory number 116, bond ordinance of the City of Rochester, New York, authorizing the issuance of $1,200,000 bonds of said city to finance the costs of the Monroe Firehouse mechanical upgrades. Any questions?
Move it.
Second.
Oh, actually, I had one question. I think I may have asked this before, but do we have an anticipated date for the completion of the Allen Street Firehouse?
I believe. Sorry, is this working?
I don't think so.
A little closer.
A little closer.
Oh, no.
Yep.
Okay. The focus of the firehouse renovation construction right now is on the Broad and Allen Firehouse, and I believe they're working towards substantial completion late spring, early summer.
Okay, thank you. I believe we moved it first and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Introductory number 117, authorizing an agreement related to the Monroe Firehouse Mechanical Upgrades Project. Questions?
Move it.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Bond ordinance of the City of Rochester, New York, authorizing the issuance of $1,144,000 dollar bonds of said city to finance the cost of the Stone Street reconstruction project. Any questions?
Move it.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Item passes. Introductory number 119, appropriating funds and authorizing an agreement relating to the Stone Street reconstruction project, East Broad Street to East Main Street. Questions?
Move it.
Second.
So moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Item passes. Introductory number 120, local improvement ordinance for the care and embellishment of street malls for 2026-27. Please note there will be a public hearing on Thursday, April 16th at 6 p.m. Any questions?
Move it.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Item passes. Introductory number 121, local improvement ordinance establishing the operating and maintenance costs of special assessments for streetscape enhancements for 2026-27. Public hearing to be held Thursday, April 16th at 6 p.m. Questions?
Question.
Yes.
Thank you. Norton Street Urban Renewal District, we are zeroed out, and it looks like we're using the funds from last year. Did we actually, so we used no funds last year. I guess that's the case, right? Okay. Well, I believe we've sold some portions of that. Is there a plan to remove this district or make changes in this district?
So there's no plans to remove it as of now. There's existing funds.
Mm-hmm.
The group that used to organize the streetscape area for Norton Street is no longer in existence.
Right.
So
Okay.
we keep it on the legislation
Okay.
just so that if they formalize again, that they'll
Okay.
have their funds available to them.
Okay. So if you could share with us the name of the organization that was in charge of that and how much is currently remaining for them to be spent in that area, that would be useful.
Sure.
Thank you.
Additional question.
Yes, Mr. President.
In the legislation, the transmittal in the legislation, we have the Cascade District and the Mount Hope Streetscape District, but there was no map for the Norton District. Could you provide that?
Yes, we will.
Thank you.
Do I have a motion?
Move it.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Item passes. Local improvement ordinance establishing the cost of the special work and services related to Main Street improvements of the Downtown Enhancement District for 2026-27. Public hearing Thursday, April 16th at 6 p.m. Questions? Councilmember Martin?
Can you provide a more detailed budget breakdown, including personnel roles and salaries for each of the roles, the kinds of contractual services anticipated, and what materials and supplies were purchased last year and anticipated for this year?
Yeah, we can provide that.
Additionally, so the map attached is a bit difficult to read for me. I'm wondering if you can later provide an updated map with clearer writing and also include the addresses and names of the building of the properties on the map.
Yeah, we have that. Yes.
And lastly, what metrics do you all use to determine whether the enhancement district has been successful in the goals you set out?
We'll provide that all in writing.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Question. Okay. who provides the staff for this district?
City does.
Okay, so these are all city staff members who perform the work in the district, the plowing, the flowers, all of that extra stuff that happens there?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Questions, comments?
I move it.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Item passes. Introductory number 123, authorizing an agreement related to Port of Rochester Marina operations. Any questions?
Move it.
Yes, Councilmember Martin.
Can you provide additional background information highlighting F3's experience in this area? It was mentioned, but just want to see additional support for that. And also in writing, can you please provide a detailed breakdown of the revenue from last year and the usage of the marina and what you anticipate for this year?
Will do.
Thank you.
I have an additional question. What makes up the operations for the port terminal that they're responsible for?
I'm sorry, what is the
operations.
operator responsible for?
Yes.
So they maintain all of the grounds of the marina and the terminal building. They handle the contracts for the seasonal boaters, the boat launch, and transient boaters that come in.
So they're actually out there doing cleaning and things like that?
Yes.
As part of it? Okay.
Yes.
And I was just wondering, who was the point person for arranging the fire inspection?
The fire department contacted the manager of the marina.
Okay.
F3.
Thank you. Can I have a motion?
Move it.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say nay. Item passes. Introductory number 124, authorizing an intermunicipal agreement for the Monroe County Stormwater Coalition. Questions or concerns?
Move it.
I have one. So when we were discussing the stormwater piece, I understand that Monroe County will provide some help to people if they have stormwater backing up in their houses. And then later I learned that RFD will also provide such support, and I'm wondering what the criteria are by which RFD would be deployed.
We can get that to you in writing.
Thank you. Can I have a motion?
Move it.
I have a first and a second by Patterson and Harris. All in favor say aye.
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 Those against say nay. Item passes. Introductory number 125. Authorizing professional term service agreements related to environmental site assessment and remedial services. Any questions?
Move it.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those against say nay. Item passes. Introductory number 126, bond ordinance of the City of Rochester, New York, authorizing the issuance of $2,850,000 bonds of said city to finance a portion of the costs of the 2026 water main cleaning and lining project. Questions?
Question.
Yes.
So, don't need this anytime soon, but when you get the chance, I'd like this information. I'd like frequently asked questions about water mains. Like to understand the sizes. Let me see, sizes, total linear feet that we've got there. What else do I want to know? I want to know where do the majority of our water main breaks occur? What size main? How many main breaks we've had over the last, let's just make it 5 years. And I'd also like to know what the repair cycle is or the replacement cycle is for our larger water mains. Every time we hear about a water main break, it's a water main, it's 110 years old, it's 115 years old. Okay, I get it. Well, what's our plan to knock that number down where the average age of our water main, well, that's the other question. what is the average age of our water mains by size category and break category, and what is our replacement plan for those larger water mains? You know, because we bond for everything and we're always fixing stuff, but for some strange reason, I'm just not remembering seeing a whole lot of, you know, bonding for the replacement of large caliber water mains. And I get it. Normally we do them when we do a comprehensive rebuild of a road, but oh yeah. And what does it cost? Not counting whatever property damage may occur, Corporation Counsel. What does it to repair a water main break as they occur? And I know there's a lot, but
Happy to share all that. Yes.
Thank you.
We'll get it to you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, Councilmember Leslie Smith.
I am just curious as to what the impact there would be on the repairs to the general public, and maybe I missed that somewhere. And is there, if there is impact, and to whatever degree there is impact, what type of community education is offered so people understand what's happening?
So when we are doing one of these water main projects, we have a pre-construction meeting, a public meeting to inform the community about what the work will entail. But during the construction, individual properties that reside along the stretch that would be served by this water main are put on what's called bypass piping so that they continue to have water service while our crews, while the contractor crews are out there doing this work. So minimal impacts to our customers. We do let them know that there could be some construction disturbance and advise them to flush their lines after the construction completes. But in terms of being out of service, it's for maybe a couple of hours.
And how do you let them know? Is there a postcard that goes to the home, or what type of outreach?
Before any water work would commence on the actual street, door hangers would be left, letting them know about the upcoming construction. But like we said, we advertise a public meeting prior to the construction held in the community to let them know what's expected.
And I'd imagine that those public meetings are held in collaboration with whatever neighborhood associations are around.
I'd have to look at the specifics of each meeting.
Yes, Vice President.
Thank you, Chair Monroe. I think I've asked this before. I just wanted to ask, do you guys have a water main break response plan for those emergency responses? And if so, can you share that with us? And, you know, what's the process? Is there a mutual aid response or from other, you know, agencies to help in that situation, that type of thing?
Yeah, we'll get you something ready.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Move it.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. The motion carries. Introductory number 127, authorizing an agreement related to the Joseph A. Floriano Rochester Riverside Convention Center Modernization Project. Questions?
Move it.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those against say nay. Motion passes. Introductory number 128, authorizing a lease agreement with the Judicial Process Commission. Questions?
Move it.
Oops, second.
All those in favor say aye. Oh,
Aye.
I'm sorry. Let's back up a moment. Councilmember Martin.
Okay, thank you. So this is a great opportunity for JPC. Just curious, in writing, can you please provide a list of other city-owned real estate that are rented to nonprofit organizations and the amount they pay monthly? Additionally, can you please indicate how long those relationships have existed? Thank you.
Yes, we'll get that to you.
Any other questions, concerns? Then we can proceed with the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Hearing none, the motion passes. Introductory number 130, local improvement ordinance providing snow removal and security services at the public market for 2026.
Councilmember, we have
Yes.
129, I believe.
Oh, I'm sorry. Introductory number 129, authorizing an agreement related to software application services for the R Central online portal and for R Center accounting and reporting functions. Any questions?
Move it.
Moved and seconded by Vice President Harris. And all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Introductory number 130, local improvement ordinance providing snow removal and security services at the public market for 2026-27. We'll have a public hearing on Thursday, April 16th at 6 p.m. Any questions?
Move it. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Introductory number 131, authorizing a lease agreement with Blackman Achieve of Greater Rochester, Inc. Any questions?
Comment.
Yes, President Melendez.
I just want to give a shout out to BMA. I think they do amazing work in the community, and I'm glad that we can support their work.
Thank you. Can I have a motion?
Move it.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries. And that concludes the work of the People, Parks, and Public Works Committee.
At this time, I will call the Public Safety Committee to order, and I ask the clerk to call the roll.
Vice President Harris.
Here.
Councilmember Gruber.
Here.
Councilmember Leslie Smith.
Here.
Councilmember Lupien. Councilmember Martin.
Here.
Councilmember Monroe.
Here.
Councilmember Patterson.
Here.
Councilmember Smith.
Here.
President Melendez.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd just like the record to reflect that we received reports from the Rochester Fire Department, a monthly update. Received the public safety updates from ECD, Emergency Management, RPD, RFD, PIC, and OVP. And thank you so much for providing that information and the reports. I'll start with the committee items. Introductory number 132, authorizing an agreement related to bill credit card services. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Councilmember Martin.
Chief Smith, can you let us know what the current fee is for people who pay bill?
I'll get it back to you in writing.
So I went back to Ordinance 2022-139, and it says that this was the last time this was updated, and we were able to amend to make the transaction fee 5%. An 8.5% increase being requested right now is almost double the amount. So I would be interested in possibly holding this and discussing how we can minimize that fee, see what else may be out there. But this is a really high burden for people who are simply paying bail for their loved ones.
Can I ask what's the implications in holding it?
I'm sorry, what?
I said, can I ask what's the implications of holding it as she requested?
Probably minor. It's a very rare occasion when we issue bail.
Okay. So, Councilmember Monroe?
Do we accept any electronic currency, doing it through PayPal or Venmo or things like that? Is that legal?
I don't know about PayPal specifically. I'll have to get it back to you in writing. I know this service that we contract with does do electronic payments.
Okay. So they'll accept something that comes directly from a bank or another thing like Venmo or...
Correct.
Okay.
Councilmember Martin?
So previously, when you proposed this in 2022, we were able to negotiate it down to 5%. Is there a reason why it's now being offered at 8.5? Are we able to go back and have a conversation with them?
Yeah, again, I don't know. I'll have to get that from the DCA and I'll get it back to you in writing.
So with that information, I will hold this item. Thank you, Chief, for giving me that information that it was, not a huge impact. So we'll hold this item. Is there any additional questions from my colleagues?
Vice President?
Yes, Councilmember President Melendez. I apologize.
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Councilmember Martin, for reminding us of that. I think this is probably a question for law, but we would have to negotiate with the vendor for the decrease. This isn't something that we couldn't just amend. And I'm assuming last time we negotiated with the vendor?
I don't know the answer to that for sure, but I would imagine that this is part of the term of the agreement, so we would have to run it by the vendor, likely.
And if, just for our own understanding, if the vendor is firm at 8.5%, do we have any recourse other than to reject the legislation outright?
Correct. I think we'd have to go and find a different vendor.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So I will hold this item. Introductory number 133, authorizing agreements related to the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services 2026-27 statewide targeted reductions in inmate violence grant, STRIVE. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
I have a question.
Councilmember Smith?
Thank you. I'm curious, is the $234,000 for salary, is that standard for a detective for something like that? And then the additional $120,000 and then the other $120,000, is that in addition to the $234,000 salary?
So it's salary and fringe. So that includes the cost of the city's contribution to the pension system, et cetera. But yes, that would be the base cost.
And that's for one role?
Correct.
Councilmember Smith, you all set? Okay. Let the record show we're joined by Councilmember Mary Lupian. I need a motion in a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. With no further business, the Public Safety Committee stands adjourned.
The hearing, committee of the whole is 4:50. So we got a almost 10-minute break. So committee of the whole will begin at 4:50 p.m.
Please take your seats. Please take your seats.
At this time, I'd like to call the Committee of the Whole to order and ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Gruber. Councilmember Leslie Smith.
Here.
Councilmember Lupien.
Here.
Councilmember Martin.
Here.
Councilmember Monroe.
Here.
Councilmember Patterson.
Here.
Councilmember Smith.
Here.
Vice President Harris. President Melendez.
Here. Thank you, clerk. Introductory number 134, a resolution confirming the appointment of the Commissioner of the Department of Neighborhood and Business Development. We are going to hold this item as we have a confirmation hearing very shortly, and therefore this will be held in committee. Introductory number 135, a resolution approving appointments to the Board of Ethics. We will also hold this item, given that council members just received this today. I would like to thank Council Vice President Harris and Councilmember Gruber for some nominations, and we will take those up in the meeting on April 21st. With no further business, this committee stands adjourned. And at this time, I would like to call the confirmation hearing for the Commissioner of Neighborhood and Business Development to order and ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Gruber. Councilmember Leslie Smith.
Here.
Councilmember Lupien.
Here.
Councilmember Martin.
Here.
Councilmember Monroe.
Here.
Councilmember Patterson.
Here.
Councilmember Smith.
Here.
Vice President Harris.
Here.
President Melendez.
Here.
Thank you.
So we're here today to hold a confirmation hearing for the Commissioner of the Department of Neighborhood and Business Development. Introductory number 134 has been submitted to us for consideration, naming Eric Frisch as the mayor's appointee. Mayor Evans, would you like to make some opening remarks?
Yes, I'll be brief. Just let me say that it's an honor to present to you Eric Frisch for the role of Commissioner of the Department of Neighborhood and Business Development. I know many of you know Eric. He is a longtime public servant, a longtime individual that has worked for the city of Rochester. And just let me say, when I first met Eric, he was a transportation specialist in the Department of Environmental Services. And then he managed special projects. Now, you know, one thing about me is I like finding talents in people, and they don't know I'm watching them, kind of thinking about where they can go next. And I watched Eric at a community meeting when we were talking about the inner loop, and this probably was years ago. And I said, he's good there. And when I became mayor, as you all know, DES and MBD, the connection between those two departments is extremely, extremely important. So I did something probably that Eric didn't expect. He probably thought I was going to say, stay in DES and, you know, kind of do that. But I said, nah, you're going to go over to neighborhood and business development. So I moved him over to neighborhood and business development as the deputy commissioner under retiring Commissioner Dana Miller. And I think that it has been probably one of the best decisions that I've made during my administration, because as you know, anybody that has ever worked in government, and I can tell you if you run a government, one of the things that you want to do is break down silos. And we have been able to do that because so much of what we do in this city runs through neighborhood and business development, but it also affects so many other departments. And MBD works with every department, but especially the Department of Environmental Services. So the synergy between those two departments is extremely important, because you can't talk about an economic development project without talking about the infrastructure needs that you have that are needed from there. So Eric gets that. Eric understands that. But above everything else, he understands the importance of working with council, the importance of working with the community, and the importance of working with the staff. And that is what a good commissioner needs to be able to do. You have to understand all of your constituencies and get people to be able to work together to find a common goal to move our city forward. So I'm glad to have Eric in front of you today. I'm sure he's ready and willing and able to answer any of your questions. And if I get up and have to run, Eric, it's not because of anything that you said. It's just that the staff has triple booked me today, so I may have to sneak out in a little bit. So I'll turn it back over to you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mayor Evans. Mr. Frisch, would you like to make an opening statement?
Absolutely. How's this? All right. Thank you so much, Council President, members of Council, for the opportunity to introduce myself to you and for your thoughtful consideration of my confirmation to the position of Commissioner of Neighborhood and Business Development. Before I begin, I want to say thank you, of course, to Mayor Evans for the trust that he has placed in me by virtue of this appointment and his belief in what I can do to guide NBD over the course of his second term. As a lifelong public servant, I'm honored and humbled by this opportunity. Trust me, very humbled at this opportunity. This is really the privilege of a lifetime, and to serve the people of this city in this most important of capacities. I also want to recognize and thank the Deputy Mayor and all of my new colleagues on the Mayor's senior management team for their support through this transition period. And to our NBD family and our bureau heads, Cosmic, Erica, Matt, Elizabeth, and a player to be named later, hopefully sooner rather than later, thank you for your leadership and your teamwork. We have a great team in place, and I cannot say enough about the talent and skill of the NBD workforce. We are going to do great things in the years ahead. And of course, I want to thank our former Commissioner, Dana Miller, for guiding this department for the past 4 years. I'm inheriting a department well positioned for success, in no small part due to his steady hand. Members of Council, many of you have known me for a long time. I've had the benefit of being at Dana's side for every committee meeting for, I believe, the past 51 months. We've served together on various boards and commissions, boards and committees. We've worked together on a number of projects and programs. We've participated alongside each other at countless neighborhood association and block club meetings over the course of my career. I've been with the city since 2007. I started here as an assistant transportation specialist, as the mayor said, in DES, then became the transportation specialist a few years later in a bout of succession planning. In 2018, I was promoted to manager of special projects in DES, and in 2022, as he just said, Mayor Evans appointed me to be Deputy Commissioner of NBD. In my time at the city, I've been blessed to work on so many important projects that have helped to revitalize and enhance our city. From seemingly small things like two-way traffic conversions and bicycle infrastructure development to major transformative investments like Midtown, Marina, Interloop East, Rock the Riverway. Moving to NBD after 15 years in DES was a bit of a culture shock. It presented a steep learning curve. I went from focusing almost entirely on what's inside of the public right-of-way to being focused almost entirely on everything outside the public right-of-way. This took some getting used to, but I'm extremely proud of what we've been able to achieve in the Bureau of Business and Housing Development, which I've led over the past 4 years in my role as Deputy Commissioner. What did not change in the move from DES to NBD was the goal and the purpose, which is to serve the people of this great city, to treat everyone with respect, to identify what's working and expand on it, and to identify what isn't working and make it better. We're here to improve quality of life and ultimately to leave this city in a better place than we started. I mentioned some of those big things that I've been lucky enough to play a role in, but doing big things is becoming the norm in our city and certainly in NBD. Think about it. We're delivering record numbers of affordable housing units to confront the housing crisis. We're working to make homeownership more accessible to more people. We're preparing to finally move forward with adoption of our first new zoning code in a quarter century. We've rolled out a citywide neighborhood grant program that's re-engaging and reactivating neighborhood associations and block clubs. We're holding property owners accountable for neglect, which is helping bring stability to our neighborhoods and improve housing quality for our residents. We're attracting investments and creating jobs to ensure a brighter future. And the big projects keep coming. Bull's Head is finally advancing. Vacuum oil is moving forward. Interloop North is on the horizon. There's things happening all over the city, at the port, along the river, on Lyle, Clinton, Hudson, Portland, West Main, East Main, Elmwood, Eastman Business Park, Noda, Upper Monroe, Beechwood, Upper Mount Hope. You get the picture. I believe that after decades of stagnation, this city is entering a new period of growth, and it's NBD's responsibility to guide it, to maximize its potential return, and to ensure that the benefits of that growth are equitably and fairly distributed to all of our residents. As a bit of personal background, my family is originally from Long Island, the South Shore of Nassau County. My father was a chemical engineer from Brooklyn. My mother was an English teacher from the little village of Malvern. I spent the first 9 years of my life in Baldwin, Long Island, before my father took a job at Kodak, which was a big thing back in the late 80s. And we relocated to the eastern suburbs of Rochester. At an early age, I had a fascination with cities, and that fascination has stuck with me, ultimately leading me to pursue a degree in geography from Clark University in Worcester, Massachusetts, and a master's of urban planning from SUNY Buffalo. I also knew at an early age that I wanted to come home to Rochester and to apply my skills to help make our city a better place. I jumped at my first opportunity to secure a full-time job here at the Genesee Transportation Council, and I've been a city resident now for nearly 25 years. I currently live off of South Clinton Avenue with my wife Alex and our rambunctious 3-year-old, nearly 4-year-old, Ira. Over my career, I've had the privilege of being mentored by some great leaders, from Steve Gleason at my first professional job at GTC, to John Thomas, my first supervisor here at the city, to the inimitable former DES Commissioner Norman Jones, and most recently, of course, Dana Miller. I've learned so much from all of them, as they've helped shape my leadership style, and in so doing, my vision for the future of this department. There are 4 areas that I want to highlight as being absolutely critical to my approach. The first is communication. This is primarily internal to NBD. And by this, I mean sharing information with all members of our department and enabling the sharing of information up to NBD leadership. No member of our team should feel that they do not have a voice, and all members should be heard. The second is responsiveness. This is primarily external. NBD, by its very nature, is integrally linked to our residents and neighborhood groups, our businesses, both large and small, our private investors and philanthropies, and our community not-for-profits. They all need to know that we are listening, that we care, and that we'll do everything we can to address their concerns and help them achieve success in whatever they're doing, because their success is our success. The third is support. By this, I mean our department working as a team. It's about having people's backs and also holding everyone, including myself, accountable when necessary. I want every member of this department to understand that we all support each other and that every role we play is critical to the overall success of the department. And lastly is decisiveness. The pace we're working at continues to accelerate. Things are moving quickly and we don't have the luxury of dithering. We need to make decisions responsibly but efficiently. I'll be sure that our departmental leadership is empowered and that the administration is consistently engaged and working with council so that we can move things forward as quickly as possible. I look forward to working with all of you to follow through on our shared goals for the future of this city. With that, I welcome any questions you may have, and I appreciate your consideration of my confirmation.
Thank you, Mr. Frisch, for your opening statement and your time today. So I'm going to give some ground rules for my colleagues here just so that we can efficiently move through this. We planned for a 6-hour confirmation here. I'm just kidding. All right. So we will open up with questions. I'm going to ask council members to limit to 2 questions if possible. We will come back down the line if we have time, and if there's any burning questions at the end. But I want to make sure that every council member has an opportunity to ask any questions today. So I'll lead off, and then we'll go down the line, starting at Councilmember Gruber, down through the line here. So first and foremost, I want to thank you for, one, stepping up and being interested. This is tough work. There's a lot of responsibility across neighborhoods. You're coordinating with not only all the departments, but there's an expectation, particularly because neighborhood service centers flow through NBD, that this is kind of the one-stop shop, the one place where people tend to want to go to first to problem solve. So I kind of want to tug on that a little bit. But before I do, I want to acknowledge that I think we met in like 2008. It's been that long. Back at a Healthy Kids meeting and at Common Ground Health, which was Finger Lakes Health Systems Agency at the time.
That's right.
And ever since I met you, and you've been very consistent throughout, not only in who you are, but what you represent and how you represent the city at any table. So I just want to commend you for your style, your leadership, your commitment. I don't think there's ever been a table that I've been at where I feel like you either didn't have the commitment or didn't have the answer to a question, or you'd get the answer to a question. So your consistency is commendable, and we all really appreciate your consistency here working with us at NBD. So my first question is around neighborhood service centers. I know that we have been working with the administration. The council ordered a study or requested a study on this. It's active, working on a plan in terms of implementation. But I want to hear from you exactly, what's your priority? How do you plan to uplift neighborhood service centers? Because it's such a valuable asset to our residents in the community, and it's something that I think this council cares deeply about.
Sure. Thank you for the question. I agree that NSCs are a critical asset in our communities and a major piece of our department. I wouldn't be able to answer this question without first, again, acknowledging Erica Hernandez as the leader of the Bureau of Neighborhood Preservation and of the NSCs. She has done a really commendable job in a short amount of time, I believe, in bringing things together and positioning the NSCs to move forward. As you said, we've completed the NSC study, which I think sets some guidance factors for the future of the NSCs to align them and to manage expectations. I think that the future of the NSCs is really as a hub for resident empowerment, neighborhood engagement, and capacity building, first and foremost. It can't be everything, so let's focus on the things that matter most. The NSCs are embedded in our neighborhoods, and they are a logical place for people to go with their issues or concerns. It's important that the NSCs focus on what they do best and also be responsive in making sure that whatever the issue is, residents feel connected to their city government and are quickly brought to the areas of the city government that can address their concerns.
Thank you for that answer. I probably have 10 questions, but I'm going to limit myself to one more for now. But in terms of the other priority that I have personally is code enforcement. I think we've made strides in terms of figuring out our staffing and trying to add more staffing to that department or that bureau. I know that we've migrated to different systems and we're actively trying to continue to improve those things. But when you're in the community, one of the challenges that I still see and feel, and I think my constituents feel, is that there is some challenge still with staying on top of problematic properties and or problematic out-of-town landlords, et cetera, et cetera. So in terms of your role as commissioner, what do you envision as some of your early priorities when you look at code enforcement, and how would you say in the first 6 months you might assess our ability to improve code enforcement?
Thank you. Yeah, and likewise, of course, I'm going to start this by acknowledging Cosmic Reed, our Director of Buildings and Compliance, who, again, this is a theme, right? I think that we've put together a really solid team of leadership here in NBD, and Cosmic is certainly emblematic of that as well. He stepped into a challenging situation, I believe, in his area, and has really created a team atmosphere in buildings and compliance, and certainly within code enforcement. It's no small feat. It's a tough job. These are not easy jobs. As you said, they can be thankless, and nobody wants to be interacting with code enforcement. But they have such an important job to do in our community. We all see it in our neighborhoods. The importance of holding property owners accountable for the neglect of their properties. You mentioned implementing new systems, right? So Infor is live, right? I think we have 25 business processes that are live right now, and it's a massive change from the way things were done before. As with any new system, we've all done it. If it's as simple as a time accounting system, no offense to the time accounting system we have, but it takes some getting used to, right? And you've got to navigate that. And so new code enforcement officers, I think, have navigated it very well. It's the system they know. Others that have lived with BIS and the previous sort of outdated DOS-based system that was not able to be managed anymore by the city, it's taken a bit more time, and that's understandable. And that's why we've started to have regular meetings between the folks that are engaged with Infor and our code enforcement officers. Right? Let's hear what the issues are, and let's identify solutions. Let's plan for enhancements to the system so that it can function better. We are working on new technology to be taken out into when the enforcement officers are out in the neighborhood so that it actually works and is reliable and useful for them. That's absolutely critical. We have a lot of work to do. There's a lot of things that are happening. You're well aware of the new lead law and what that means. We have added, as you know, 6 property conservation inspectors that are going to be at the front lines of doing those lead testing work. We've added code enforcement officers in recent years so that we can take on more cases, but also reduce the caseload for any individual officer. They are carrying a lot. I know one thing that I intend to do, and it's a really simple thing, is to get out and do ride-alongs with all 4 of our code enforcement seniors in each of the quadrants. Get to understand their styles and start to look at those consistency across quadrants, but also to just understand what is the day-to-day that they're dealing with, and start to look at ways that I can be impactful in improving service delivery.
Great. Thank you for that answer, and I look forward to partnering with you on trying to figure out how we continually work on this and improve it. Councilmember Gruber.
Mr. Interim Commissioner, those were beautiful remarks. I only wish you had mentioned also that you are one of the few American-born Blue Jays fans that I know of.
Present company excluded, of course.
Which is a good thing in my mind. I'm only going to ask one question. Maybe it's got a couple parts to it, but honestly, your references speak volumes. The people who you have as references are all tremendous people, and the fact that your team showed up with gear. Can we see the signs? Wow, that is a telling sign.
They were not paid to do that.
So, I'm not here to try to stump you or ask any questions that are gotcha questions. I do have a big, heavy question though that I want you to be able to lay out kind of who you are to the council and anyone else who happens to be watching this. You mentioned a housing crisis. It's a thing we hear about all the time, the housing crisis. Not always defined the same way by everyone. So I'm curious, how would you define the housing crisis, and what is your vision for helping us get out of it?
Thank you, Council Member. I would define the housing crisis in multiple ways, right? It's affecting people in lots of different ways. One is a supply issue, right? At its core, we have not kept up with building units to meet the needs of our people. And that leads to the affordability challenges that then result when you have a lack of supply. We have not had, although, as I said, we are delivering on just incredible numbers of regulated, affordable, and permanent supportive units over the past few years. But historically, maybe that hasn't been the case. The good news is there is a lot of funding available to advance regulated, affordable, and permanent supportive units. And we are blessed in this community with the talent. One, we have the most talented housing staff of any city in upstate New York. There's no doubt about it. Carol Wheeler and her team know what they're doing, right? They could be working in the private sector, working on housing development, but they're here because they're committed to serving our city. We also have an incredible wealth of affordable housing developers who export their talents across the state. We have people working in New York City delivering housing that are based here in Rochester. And that's a great asset for us as well to partner with those, and that's why you see Lenny Skrill here all the time from Homes and Community Renewal talking about how good it is to come and work here. It's also about housing quality, right? If you have a place to live, you want it to be a quality environment. New housing is a great way to do that. But also the other things that we just talked about, holding people accountable and upgrading our units. So when opportunities come around to secure grant funding or to work with our existing programs that help to rehabilitate and improve, whether it's owner-occupied or rental housing in this community, is absolutely critical. I do believe that we need housing at all levels, from very low income housing to workforce housing to market rate housing. I do believe that it's the entire spectrum that it's all related. And I think that one of the areas that I do want to see us increase our efforts on is to grow the amount of workforce housing units that are being delivered here in Rochester. I think that we've seen a fair amount of regulated affordable units, as I mentioned. We've also seen some, higher end market rate, if you will, housing that's built that can pencil out, if you will. What we're not seeing is a lot of that stuff in the middle, and that's leaving a gap in our ability to serve the market. And it's also creating a glut where people are not able to move up into that housing, which then limits the supply for everybody else. So I want to see us focus on that as well.
Thank you. I'll just ask a follow-up then. What's one way that you will focus on the workforce housing? What are some tools that either are developed now and underutilized by our city, or new tools to develop?
Yeah, great question. So the state does have some programs. They recently the Small Building Participation Loan Program, for instance, that's proving to be so popular that it's been oversubscribed, and the state is aware of that, and we're anxious to work with them to encourage. Work with our state delegation also to encourage them to capitalize that, to work with our developers and utilize the funding programs that we have, and through the county as well, You may have seen that that Comida recently released their new housing pilots, which are 3-tiered and are intended in part to address this very need by focusing on that 80 to I believe 120% AMI income band.
Vice President Harris.
Thank you, President Melendez. Interim Commissioner Frisch, we've worked together for a couple of years now on the land bank. So I have a little handle of who you are and the caliber of work that you put out, and of course, working with your comrades as well. So I'm just really curious, because I know that some of the direction that you've been working on things with Commissioner Miller, what would you do? What would be your vision to help revitalize our neighborhoods? The commercial quarters are suffering in certain parts of our city, as well as parts of the downtown quarters. What would be your vision to help us get back some of our businesses? COVID-19 kind of destroyed a lot of, our small businesses, and there's restrictions at the federal level to how they get, grant funding. So can you tell us some ideas on how we can revitalize our commercial business quarters in the neighborhoods?
Absolutely. Thank you. I think you hit on some of those reasons for why many of our commercial corridors have struggled to bounce back from the COVID pandemic, and even in downtown as well. Things have changed a fair amount. I would say that the health of our commercial corridors is tied to the health of our neighborhoods. Places with stronger housing markets typically also have stronger commercial corridors. They have greater concentration of disposable income, which then supports increased or greater amounts of retail and restaurant sales. But it's more nuanced than just how much dollars are available, right? You actually there's so much happening in that landscape that's affecting commercial real estate. We're well aware of how big box stores and suburban sprawl impacted local neighborhood commercial strips. And now, of course, we're also very well aware of how online retail has now been decimating big box retailers, right? We're seeing Marketplace Mall turn into something that's not a mall, for instance, and that, of course, is happening in cities nationwide. People are also highly mobile, right? So the dollar that you have doesn't have to be spent in your neighborhood. It could go anywhere. And so we know that there is considerable leakage of that spending, right, that could be being spent in our neighborhoods or anywhere in our city that instead is going to our neighboring suburbs. We need to be able to better hold on to that income and get those, convince people of the value of spending on our commercial corridors. Every corridor is going to be different, right? There's not a one size fits all approach, right? There are certainly some corridors that are healthier than others, and I think there are some that really stand out that we look at and say, well, why? Why isn't this a stronger market? I think, one, we need to focus on those. Let's bring a consultant study in to look at those particular corridors. For instance, we've been working with the Downtown Development Corporation on the Main Street Activation Program. And as part of that, which is a regional revitalization program funded initiative to fill vacant storefronts on Main Street. And the first step in that was to hire a retail consultant with a specialization in urban retail to do, market study work and best practices from elsewhere and make those connections. And it's resulting in things are happening, right? So the Main Street Activation Program has been successful in working now, I believe, with 3 or 4 different businesses that are actively working towards opening up on and along Main Street in the coming months. So we know that it's there. The opportunities are there. Every corridor, again, is different. We may not get the same corridor that we had in the past, but we should not accept failure. And I think that if we invest our resources in the right way and envision and work with our local business associations, our residents, we can craft strategies to bring those corridors back.
Thank you for that answer. And I have hope because you said we cannot accept failure. So I do have hope for that, and I appreciate that. I'll yield because, I can ask you other questions later.
I appreciate that.
Councilmember Leslie Smith.
I just want to echo the sentiment of Council President in that I've known Eric now for probably about a decade or so, and you remain the same person the very first day that I met you until this day. I believe we met at the Community Design Center for a Reconnect Rochester meeting. We probably were talking about the East Main Streetscape plan at the time. Up until more recently, you advocating for residents in our neighborhood to get their homes out of tax foreclosure sales. Like, there has never been a time where I've had to come and advocate for a community and now constituents where you haven't been responsive. So when you outlined your 4 criteria, communication, responsiveness, support, and decisiveness, I've seen that advocated, activated in you, and I'm really excited about you for this role. It's not everyone is kind, but you're a kind man. You have a gentle spirit, and I think when it comes to urban development, you understand that community comes first, and I appreciate that. So my question, and I only have one, I understand that the city allocated some resources for tiny homes or manufactured homes, maybe about 3 years ago or so for community. Nope, for our homeless encampment.
Peace Village.
Peace Village, yes, thank you. And so my understanding is that those are sitting off somewhere. They have not been assembled, developed. And so I'd love to, and asking questions about this, I understand that it is your department that's responsible for that. And so I just wanted to see, what are your plans for that moving forward? How is that going to be activated so that we can really provide that community the support that's needed?
Sure, thank you. Absolutely. And I mean, the good news there is that there is considerable progress being made. I think nobody is necessarily happy that we don't have it up and running, right? But it's critical that we get it right. We don't open before we're ready, right? That it's adequately resourced, it's well thought out, it's adequately staffed, and it's ready to go. So our team, myself included, have been working for quite some time on bringing in an operator who will be responsible for the day-to-day operations of Peace Village. There was a RFQ that was released through our partners at the City Roots Community Land Trust, and we have been working with Victor at the Land Trust to get to a point where we have a operator selected. Am I able to talk more about that? We have selected, right? So we are now working officially with person-centered housing options on the plan to bring this to fruition this year, this summer. They are working with a experienced consultant out of Texas called Endeavors, who has experience operating numerous shelters, including a large pallet shelter community in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And they've really been invaluable in helping to frame the right approach because they've seen it, they know what works and what to focus on. So we now have a budget. We now have an operating and security plan. The next step is to finalize the funding so that we can ensure that we can deliver on what's important there with Peace Village. And our current timeline is again to open this summer, adequately funded, adequately staffed, and ready to go.
Okay, Councilmember Lupien.
Yes, I will echo my colleagues, and we've been working together for a long time, and very impressed with consistency, how you show up in the same way everywhere throughout time, and just really appreciate selecting you for this role.
Thank you.
My question is, how will you run NBD differently than the previous commissioner in both leadership and vision, and where are areas where you think that you will be continuing what Dana Miller had put in place?
Sure, thank you. So I mentioned the four attributes that I think are kind of guiding how I intend to have our department operate. I think it's fair to say I'm bringing an energy with me to tackle our challenges. I consider myself a student of cities, right? So this is off topic, but when I go anywhere, the first thing I want to do is go and experience that community at its heart. How does the heartbeat of that community feel? That to me is the most exciting part about traveling. It's not about going to the tourist trap. It's about understanding how it functions, right? I love seeing well-functioning places. And there's so much opportunity here. We have a great chance right now, right? Like I mentioned, there's some growth. And that hasn't been the case. And growth can be scary when people aren't used to it. We need to make sure that growth is channeled appropriately, but also we need to bring new ideas and new approaches and learn from peers and embrace best practices and frankly do it ourselves, right? I mean, we've had this this idea that we can't do big things, right? Just generally in the community, it's this unfortunate thing that we often beat ourselves up, and I want to celebrate our successes, and I want to have a lot more of them. And so it's probably cliche at this point, given how much I've talked about Interloop and how many times I've been, interviewed and all that. But I mean, that's a big deal, right? We did something that very few communities had been able to achieve, and we're held up as not only a national model, but we're held up internationally as an example. We can do more of that, and we can do it at various levels. We just need to have the leadership willing to make tough decisions and work alongside the mayor and council to pursue those visions. So I look forward to that challenge. And again, like I said, it's extremely humbling to be in this position. And I'm excited to get to work and roll up my sleeves and make things happen.
Councilmember Martin.
Hi, Eric. I'm really looking forward to working with you, and it's great to hear all the positive experiences my colleagues have had with you. How do you think the folks you supervise would describe you?
Ooh. That is with flashing lights and banners, apparently. That's a great question. You know, as I said in my opening statement, I really think it's critical that everyone be treated with respect. It's not a hard thing to do, right? No matter what their issue or concern may be, no matter how they're, well, within reason, but no matter how they're approaching us, it's important that everybody feel like they're being respected. And I think I have led or lived my professional career by that. You know, early on in my career, I managed the neighborhood traffic calming program, right? And a number of you have funneled requests to me in that way. And, you know, that it's a simple thing, right? You take in the request, you determine whether it meets the criteria, and you get back to people, and maybe you do the studies or whatever. And that their issue of something as simple as speeding on their street might not seem like much in the grand context of everything that we have going on here at the city, but to them, that's the issue that needs to be addressed, right? So meeting them there and demonstrating that we care about those things, right? Now, I'm not in DES. My good friend Kabute Okanzi will, I'm sure, attest to this. It's critical that people know that we take it seriously and that their concerns are valid no matter whether they're big or small, because to them, that's the issue. I think that I'd like to think that people see me as thoughtful. I'm not somebody who speaks for the sake of speaking. I listen and I contemplate and I make decisions. I'm proud of the things that I've been able to do here. You know, I look back over my career and frankly, you know, I'm still kind of shocked that I've been able to do the things that I have and certainly to be here, which I guess means I'm somewhat humble. And I know the value of teamwork because I've come up through this organization. And I know how important every one of us is. And so again, when I talk about support for our team members, that extends throughout because everybody plays an important role. And if you're only as strong as your weakest link, so we need to make sure that there are none, right?
Amazing. Thank you. And last question. So I hear from constituents about barriers they experience accessing some of the grants for housing. And that's something I've also heard from employees with the city grants for first-time homeowners. What strategies or ideas do you have around maybe reevaluating some of the paperwork and the barriers to make those housing programs more accessible?
Sure. Good question. You know, one, I'd want to know what the specific issues are, but knowing what I know, we're often forced into rules, regulations, requirements based on the funding sources that we have to work with. I know that's the case with our home buyer grants in much the same way that it is with our small business grants, right? HUD dollars are wonderful. We love them. Please don't cut them. But, you know, they could be easier to work with. I think, you know, when we hear of an issue, if it's something on our end, we should be getting together as a team and trying to figure out how we address that. If it's something that's within our control, we shouldn't just let it stand because that's how we've always done things, right? That's not acceptable. And where we don't have the latitude to make changes because, you know, we're working with federal or state dollars and they have some sort of restriction that makes it a challenge or some requirement for information that people can't or don't want to share with us. We have to be able to communicate that, you know, again, respectfully, that, you know, we are kind of bound by these requirements, but offer guidance for how we can work together in the future to achieve what they're looking to do.
Thank you, and I'm very excited to support you and see what you do in this new role.
Thank you so much.
Councilmember Monroe.
Hi, Eric. It is nice to see you sitting here. Just to comment on one thing as far as being an outsider. Earlier in the last committee meeting, I was saying that, I came to Rochester in 1998. And I was very surprised to see how many people don't see the incredible things that are happening in the city and the number of beautiful geographic assets that we have. So seeing your excitement and enjoyment of that, and I think most people certainly who work for the city share the same thing, because we know a lot more intimately about what goes into creating this space. And speaking of that, I'm wondering, in regards to sustainability, where are we currently folding in sustainability, and do you see plans for being able to expand sustainability through our climate action plan?
Sure, yeah. So, well, one, working across departments on that, right? That is a cross-departmental effort. Our role, I think one area that stands out, of course, is housing. With electrification, for instance, or alternative energy, green energy supports to not only address sustainability, but also hopefully improve affordability as well. So our folks are working regularly with our colleagues in DES and the Division of Environmental Quality, looking at, as well as the I-Team and the work that we're all doing to address energy burden for our residents here in the city, and coming up with strategies to address those. I think NBD is one of many players in that. And I know that our team is committed. I think some of us are going on a trip soon with a cross-departmental team to a meeting with the I-Team and other teams across the country to talk about energy burden and what different cities are doing to address that on the local level. So, we need to be able to identify ways that we can improve to build that into our various requests for proposals, whether it's for our annual affordable housing RFP or through development RFPs. I know that we, let's say, incentivize might not be the right word, but we express preference in our evaluation processes, right? When developers are proposing to do things that are green and sustainable, rather than the same old.
Thank you. In regards to the land bank, what plans or vision do you have for that entity?
Thank you. Yeah, we for those who don't know, as Deputy Commissioner, I've been chair of the Rochester Land Bank board for the past 3+ years. The land bank is completing, or has completed, its new strategic plan, and I think we'll be releasing that very soon. That talks about the realities that land banks are facing, right? Access to properties post Hennepin, which the Supreme Court decision has challenged the ability to access properties through tax foreclosure auctions. And so what are we going to do to continue to have the land bank be relevant and effective in meeting its mission, right? Which has been primarily to acquire properties and restore them to productive use with a focus on owner occupancy. And one of the things that we need to realize is if we're not going to be able to get access to as many properties, we need to consider what other things that we can do and learn from land banks elsewhere. And one of those things we know we have is we have a fair number of vacant lots. And at a time when we have rising property values and we have some growth, now is a good time to look at those vacant lots and strategize on how we're going to develop them and make those affordable homes for the next generation of Rochesterians. So although not land bank, we have been working on the manufactured home project with Cook Properties. We're working, the land bank is working with the state on the Move in New York program. And we are looking at other avenues to identify new ways to deliver housing that's more or that's less expensive to build and therefore more naturally affordable and requiring lower subsidies in order to, again, make it more sustainable in the long term for the city and the state. So,
thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Patterson.
No questions at this time.
Wow.
You saved me some time. Look at that. Councilmember Smith.
Hi, Commissioner Frisch. It's great meeting you for the first time. Hearing your voice the other day, I'm like, why isn't he on radio? But just quick question. In 1 year from now, what specific measurable changes would you say residents in our most under-resourced neighborhoods would be able to point at a specific development and say, this, because of this development, my life has changed in a certain kind of way?
There's so many ways we could go with that. I appreciate the question. One of the things I'd point to, not to not answer your question, would be one of the areas that is experiencing the greatest amount of investment right now is an area that if we had said so, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, people would have said, what do you mean? That's not going to happen. The area along Upper Falls Boulevard and has seen such incredible investment in recent years, and it's changing the character in such a profound way. From new affordable rental developments, right, like Upper Falls Square and El Camino Estates and Los Flamboyanes that's under construction now, By the Block, and now First Genesis, both single family and senior, and recognizing that we've already delivered 24 affordable owner-occupied homes in that neighborhood. That's 24 families that may have never experienced home ownership before. The stability that comes with having that home and the opportunity for wealth generation that comes from that is why we do that. And so now working with First Genesis and RMI on their project, which is just a block down, a block to the east, and 22 more homes that will be affordable, owner-occupied, high-quality homes. Add those together, that's 46 new homes in that small geographic area where families are planning routes, where families are being stabilized, having that family home to come to, and again, those opportunities for wealth generation that come from that. And then you see the other things that start to pop up around there, right? Over time, you're going to see, getting back to what Councilmember Harris had said regarding commercial corridors. There's more opportunity for small businesses to thrive when you have stable neighborhoods alongside them, when you have that investment taking place. So that's a long-winded way, I think, of saying, I want to see more such investments taking place. I want to see us follow through on our goals for more manufactured, modular, and other types of housing that, again, bring the price down, that we build more on our vacant lots, and that we really impact lives in that meaningful way.
Thank you so much for those details. That was a reminder for me as well. I look forward to working with you.
Thank you so much. Same here.
Thank you. Well, in the interest of getting you off the hot seat, I think we may have some additional questions that council members can. We'll try not to make you go crazy putting things in writing, but we may have some additional questions that we'll send your way ahead of the council meeting.
Be happy to.
But we really appreciate you making the time for us. Not that you had a choice, but and thoroughly answering our questions. We also forgive you for being a Blue Jays fan, and look forward to taking that interim title off of that commissioner title. So thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you so much.
And with that, there are no other questions at this hearing. The legislation will be considered at our next council meeting on Tuesday, April 21st at 6 p.m. here in Chambers. Mr. Frisch, thank you again for answering and your commitment to public service for the city of Rochester. With no further business, we are adjourned.
Go Jays, go.
And for my colleagues, work session still, too early day. We're going to plow through it. 5 minutes.